So today we've come to the British Wildlife Centre down in Surrey, and we're going to be talking to head keeper and resident photographer Matt Binstead about how to get some really great animal shots.
Now, a lot of people think photographing captive animals is easy, but it's not. I mean, it's a good way to come and learn key skills which you can then take out with you when you go and try and photograph these animals back out in the wild. They're moving still quite fast, and so you can get good practice in with your camera settings and your ISO speeds that you need, and just watching the animals' behaviour and learning what they're doing. And it's all good things you're picking up for when you then go out in the field. I think it's really important to know and understand the animal's behaviour and just learn about that before you go out and photograph them, because it just gives you a better understanding of where they might be or how they might act, and gets you better prepared to get into a good position for a good photograph. And that's equally important for animals in captivity too, because they'll have their own traits and their own set routes around the enclosures they might go, and so it just helps you out. You can use food as a lure or bait to try and get some nice photographs of some animals, and of course it certainly helps if you can build up the animal's trust, especially if you're out in the wild. They might get used to going to a particular feed station, for example, if you're putting food out there. But sometimes, to be honest, I think it's much better just to leave the animals to themselves. You get a lot more natural behaviour from them then, and even working with captive wildlife, just let them do what they want to do, and you'll get some much more natural, much better looking photographs, in my opinion. Well, I always take with me a few different lenses in my kit bag. Too often people just use a telephoto for wildlife, but sometimes you can get some really nice photographs just by going a bit wider, or even using a fisheye, get something a bit more quirky, or getting really close, get a macro out and perhaps go for some feather details on a bird or some whiskers and fur on the mammals. One of my most important bits of equipment really is the clothing, wet weather gear in particular. It just allows me to get down and dirty in the mud or right on the edge of water, for example with the otters, where you can get some much nicer low angle shots and some of the reflections of the otters back off the water surface even. Now, when you're photographing wildlife, of course you want to make the images look as natural as possible, and even in the wild this can be quite tricky. If you're photographing garden birds in your back garden, for example, try and avoid having the fence panels in the background or the bird bath. Try and make it look nice and natural. Even more important if you're working with captive wildlife, of course, make sure that there's no fence lines in the background, and you can do this quite easily just by changing your shooting angle. Get down nice and low. If there is a bit of a fence in the background there, just even moving by a couple of inches sometimes might remove that and give you a much better, much more pleasing shot. Now, when working with any wildlife, be it wild animals or captive animals, you must always be respectful of the animals themselves. I mean, it's their home where they are, so you don't want to upset them, you don't want to make them feel afraid. So you just keep your distance. Even with captive animals, keep your distance. Only go as close as they want you to go, and that way it'll be better photographs for you anyway, because they'll act much more natural and you'll get a much better looking photograph.